You say you are lost, that you don't know where to start, that nothing makes sense, that all the options seem confusing and no path feels safe. You repeat this like a mantra. I'm confused. I don't know what to do. Hoping that somehow this phrase will bring relief or clarity. But what if I told you that this is a lie? Not a conscious lie, but a lie that your ego created to protect you from something it considers much more threatening than confusion, transformation. Carl Jung did not see being lost as a real state. He saw it as a defense, a smoke screen, a sophisticated mechanism of the mind to avoid facing what deep down you already know. Because let's be honest, you know, not with the logical mind, but with something deeper, the unconscious. It has already shown you the way many times in strange sensations, in recurring dreams, in persistent discomforts, in a voice whispering in the back of your soul. It's this way, but you ignore it because following that direction comes at a high price, leaving behind the version of yourself that you have built up to now. You are not lost. You are terrified. Because starting truly requires the symbolic death of the current you. It means destroying an identity that may have taken years to build. The people pleaser, the stable professional, the obedient child, the perfect partner. All of this needs to die to make way for something new. And that new is unknown. It is wild. It is uncertain, and your ego prefers the familiar pain of paralysis to the abyss of a new existence. Do you know why you spend hours researching, planning, waiting for the right moment? Because while you are planning, you are not living. While you are saying you need more clarity, you are postponing responsibility. While you say you don't know what to do, you are protecting yourself from the risk of making a mistake. You want all the guarantees before taking the first step. But real life doesn't offer that. And Jung's unconscious knew this very well. Clarity comes after action, never before it. And here's the brutal truth. You are not going to feel ready. You will feel fear. You will feel like you are making a mistake. You will feel like you are moving away from everything you know because you are. But it is only by crossing this internal chaos that you find what Jung called individuation. The process of becoming who you really are, not who the world trained you to be. So I ask you directly, if you stopped lying to yourself right now, what do you know you need to do? Write it down without thinking, without censorship. Just write. Because that is the first step to getting out of the state of confusion. Admitting that deep down you know. And if you know you are not lost, you are just afraid to start. Have you ever felt that there is something inside you that wants to emerge but remains locked away like a caged animal that while roaring to be freed also deeply frightens you? That is the voice of yourself. The true core of your psyche trying to manifest. Jung called this impulse a call to individuation, and it is not a pretty or romantic metaphor. It is a real deep, often brutal psychological process. And here is the central point. When you say I am lost, what you are doing is refusing that call. The ego hates change. It wants stability, predictability, security. For the ego, a mediocre and known life is better than a leap into the dark. But the self does not care about stability. It wants the truth. It wants you to become what you were born to be, even if that requires burning everything you have built so far. The conflict between the ego and the self is the true battleground of the modern soul. And you are in that field now, even if you are not aware of it. And this is where the lie of being lost becomes a trap. You feed this narrative because it is convenient. Because as long as you are lost, you do not have to act. You do not have to commit to a specific path. You keep all possibilities open, which seems like freedom, but is paralysis. Jung saw this state as a form of neurosis, a suspension of action that only serves to protect the ego from the pain of transformation. You say you need more signs, more time, more preparation. But what you really need is the courage to respond to the call you have already heard 1,000 times. The truth, you know you need to leave that relationship that is draining your soul. You know you need to abandon the career that is killing your vitality. You know you need to start that project that scares you. You know you need to cut ties with people who manipulate your energy. The problem is not a lack of direction. It is the terror of what that direction demands of you. And that is why you pretend to be confused. But confusion is just the mask of fear. Jung wrote, "The unconscious knows. The ego refuses to listen." In other words, your psyche has already sent the map. You just don't want to look at it because you know that once seen, it cannot be unseen. And if you know the way, even if only intuitively, you can no longer claim ignorance. From there, the only thing left is the choice. Will you follow or continue pretending? But before you proceed, you need to understand the true enemy. What is preventing you from starting is not the world, nor fate, nor bad luck. It is 3 deep terrors that live within your mind. 3 hidden forces that silently sabotage any attempt to begin. In the next part, we will expose these terrors with surgical precision. Because only when you understand what is truly paralyzing you can you finally break free. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Do you want to know why you haven't started yet? Why even knowing what you need to do, even feeling deep down in your soul what calls you, you remain in the same place? The answer is not a lack of clarity. It lies in 3 invisible terrors that operate silently behind the scenes of your mind. Jung identified these fears as the great saboteurs of the individuation process. They are not superficial. They do not whisper. They scream in the unconscious. And if you do not recognize them, you will continue to call paralysis search. You will continue to call fear lack of purpose. The first terror is the death of the current identity. Starting something new inevitably means letting something die. And for the ego, this is unbearable. If you decide to abandon a career, you are not just changing professions. You are killing the you that was defined by that choice. The respectable doctor, the stable engineer, the dedicated teacher. This identity was built with years of effort, sacrifice, and social acceptance. And now to move forward, you need to destroy it. You need to accept that what brought you here will not take you where you need to go. That hurts. And the ego prefers the known suffering to the necessary annihilation. The second terror is total responsibility. While you say you are lost, you are protected. You can hide behind the idea that the universe has not yet shown you the way, that you are waiting for a sign, that it is not the right time. But the moment you decide, choose, begin, all the responsibility falls on your shoulders. If you fail, it was because you tried. There is no one else to blame. You cannot say it was a lack of clarity. It was your choice. That is a heavy burden. And for many, it is more comfortable to live in the illusion that they are waiting for the right moment than to face the weight of authoring their own destiny. The third terror is the deepest of all, the encounter with the unknown. The unconscious knows that by starting the true path, you will enter uncharted territory. You will have to deal with emotions you have never faced, fears that have been dormant, aspects of yourself that you have always avoided. You do not know who you will become in the process. And this uncertainty, this loss of absolute control is experienced by the ego as a threat of death. Jung understood that the fear of the unknown is one of the main reasons we cling to miserable situations simply because they are familiar. You prefer the known misery to uncertain freedom. These 3 terrors, death of the self, responsibility, and the unknown form an invisible prison. They keep you spinning in circles seeking answers you already have, postponing a life you already know you want to live. As long as you do not recognize these internal enemies, you will continue to call cowardice precaution and stagnation conscious waiting. But now that these fears have been exposed, it is time to do something that most never do. Look directly at what you gain by remaining paralyzed. Because there is a hidden reason, a secret advantage in staying lost. And until you confront this dark benefit, the cycle will continue. In the next part, we will reveal this hidden advantage, that which deep down you want to keep, even if it is destroying you. You might think that being lost is a curse, that this feeling of confusion, this constant paralysis, this life suspended in almost is a useless suffering. But Jung invites us to look deeper, much deeper, because according to him, no neurotic state persists without bringing some benefit to the psyche. There is a hidden gain, a shadow benefit that keeps you exactly where you are. And as long as this benefit is not exposed to the light of consciousness, you will remain stuck. Not due to a lack of path, but because of the comfort disguised as suffering. Let's be brutally honest. Staying lost protects you. As long as you say you don't know what to do, you don't have to make difficult choices. You don't have to face your family's judgment for following a path they don't approve of. You don't have to risk failing publicly by launching that project. You don't have to confront the possibility of discovering that even trying, you might not be as good as you thought. Being lost keeps you safe, invisible, untouched. And that is the hidden benefit. Ask yourself now with raw sincerity, if I remained lost forever, what would I never have to face? The answers may shock you. I would never have to disappoint my parents. I would never have to admit that I hate my career. I would never have to risk my heart in a real relationship. I would never have to confront my fear of being mediocre. I would never have to live without the crutch of doubt. These advantages are subterranean, unconscious, but they shape your life with brutal force. Because deep down you know that change requires loss. That if you start you abandon the fantasy that all possibilities are open, you choose. And by choosing you kill all other paths. And what if this path fails? What if it's not enough? What if you are not enough? While you are lost, you can still be anything. You can still write a book, move to another country, find great love, completely reinvent yourself. But all of this lives only in the realm of possibility. It is a false freedom because it is not accompanied by action. You are like a prisoner who prefers the familiar cell to the open door to an unknown world. The hidden benefit of being lost is that you never have to commit. You never have to take responsibility. You never have to face your oldest fear. Discovering who you really are outside of others' expectations. And that for the ego is unacceptable. But now that you know this, the spell begins to break. You can no longer pretend to be just a victim of confusion. You are in some way choosing to remain where you are. And if you are choosing, you can choose differently. But how? The next step is to face not just the fear, but to dialogue with it. Jung developed a profound method for this kind of crossing, active imagination. And it is through it that you will be able to access your future self, the version of you that has already had the courage to start. In the next part, you will learn about this process and discover what this braver version of you has to say because it already exists and it is waiting for you to listen. Have you ever stopped to imagine who you would be if you had the courage to start? Not who you could be, but who you will be the moment you stop running and take the first step. This is not an optimistic fantasy or a cheap motivational exercise. It is a profound process of reconnection with your unconscious. What Jung called active imagination. Unlike the common visualization that modern coaching has trivialized, active imagination is a psychological ritual, a bridge between you and the deepest parts of your psyche. Jung believed that when you silence the noise of the world and dive inward with intention, images, voices, and answers emerge. And they do not come from your rational mind. They come from the self. And the self has already walked this path. It already knows who you need to become. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, and imagine yourself 5 years from now. But not just any version of you. Imagine the version that had the courage to start. The one that answered the call you have been ignoring. The one that faced the 3 terrors. The one that let the old self die and was reborn into something new. That version of you already exists in the field of real potentiality, not fantasy. And it has something to say. Ask it. What do you have that I don't have yet? What do you know now that I still haven't understood? Was it worth starting even without guarantees? Don't force answers. Just listen. Perhaps it smiles with compassion. Perhaps it cries to see you still trapped. Perhaps it says the pain you fear is not even half of the pain of staying where you are. Or perhaps it says what Jung knew and so many ignore, that you do not heal with ready-made answers. You heal with courage, with movement, with renunciation. This meeting with your future self is not a mental trick. It is a reconnection with the wisest part of you. The one that is not addicted to spiritual procrastination. The one that is not concerned with anyone's approval. The one that knows that living is choosing to die to everything you are not. And perhaps in this silent dialogue, you realize something terrifying. That the longer you spend avoiding the path, the more it begins to exact a price. Stagnation turns into suffering. Doubt turns into despair. And life begins to force the change you refuse to initiate. This is the next inevitable point of the journey. A truth that Jung called enantiodroia, the reversal of opposites. Because you cannot pretend to be lost forever without consequences. The unconscious will react. It will drag you. It will collapse your world if necessary. And this is what we will talk about next. What happens when you resist change so much that it starts to swallow you? Because you cannot run away forever. And perhaps, just perhaps, it is better to start of your own volition than to wait for the collapse. If what you're hearing resonates with you, you'll find real value in my ebooks. Beyond the Shadow breaks down Jung's core ideas, while Dialogues with the Unconscious gives you a 30-day path to apply them in your life. Both are linked in the pinned comment. You can postpone, rationalize, disguise with spirituality, mask with productivity, or even hide behind safe routines. But a silent truth is chasing you. If you keep ignoring the call, the collapse will come. Carl Jung knew this, and he named this inevitable process an antiodroia, the natural movement where everything taken to the extreme transforms into its opposite. The comfort zone turns into a prison. The search for clarity becomes existential paralysis. The not knowing what to do transforms into chronic suffering. You can pretend for a while that you are waiting for a sign, a push from fate, a final proof that now is the right moment. But the unconscious does not work with dates. It works with accumulated pressure. And when you deny life for too long, it bursts from the inside out. This is how the collapse comes. And I am not talking about something mystical. I am talking about the psychological collapse that Jung repeatedly saw in his patients. Inexplicable anxiety, panic attacks, identity crisis, a sense that nothing makes sense, growing depression, isolation. The soul begins to scream when you silence it for too long. And this reversal, this enantiodroia, is not punishment. It is correction. The psyche is trying to save you from yourself. It is trying to destroy your stagnation before it destroys your life. Perhaps you are already close to the limit. Perhaps you already feel that something inside you is about to break. You pretend that you are fine. You pretend that you are just waiting for more clarity. But deep down you know there is no more time. The I am lost no longer convinces even you. The mask is falling apart. And what will remain when it falls? It is at this point that most people wait for a miracle. But Jung was clear. Miracles do not happen for those who do not move. Transformation is not magical. It is conscious action. And that is why if you have come this far, it is no longer the time to understand. It is the time to start. Even small, even with fear, even without guarantees, you do not need to jump head first into the abyss. You just need to take the smallest possible step, the one that symbolizes the beginning of the journey. Because it is this first gesture, no matter how small it seems, that breaks the spell of inertia and reactivates the vital energy of the psyche. Jung knew this. The psyche does not need proof. It needs movement, and that is exactly what we will explore next. What is the smallest possible step you can take today to break this paralysis? The beginning does not need to be heroic. It needs to be real and above all symbolic, because when you start even in a microscopic way, the unconscious understands that finally you are ready. You have already understood that you are not lost. That fear is the true blockage. That confusion is just a sophisticated disguise to avoid facing transformation. You have seen the terrors, recognized the hidden benefits of paralysis, heard the voice of your future self, and felt the growing pressure of imminent collapse. Now, there is only one thing left: to act. But here is the crucial point. You don't need to revolutionize your life all at once. In fact, trying to do so would be another trap of the ego because the ego loves extremes. Either you remain paralyzed or you try to change everything at once and sabotage yourself in the process. Jung understood that true transformation is a symbolic and organic process. What breaks the cycle is not an explosion of courage, but a real simple and conscious gesture. So tell me, what is the smallest step you can take today that represents the beginning of the path you have been avoiding? Don't think about quitting your job tomorrow. Think about quietly researching that new career. Don't fantasize about ending a relationship now, but write a letter that will never be sent where you say everything you have been swallowing. Don't plan to move to another country, but visit the neighborhood or city that has always called to you. The step has to be small enough not to scare you, but loaded with enough truth to be symbolic. This gesture is a ritual. It is a direct communication with your unconscious. It is saying, I heard you. I am ready to begin. And when you do this, a gear shifts inside you. A new part activates. The spell of stagnation begins to break. Because contrary to what the modern world has taught you, clarity does not come before action. Clarity is a consequence of movement. The light only turns on in the second step, but it depends on your courage to take the first one in the dark. What can you do now? Not tomorrow, not next week. That represents this first step. Do it today. And then write in the comments, this is the first step I am taking. Declare it. Make it public. Not as a promise but as an affirmation of identity. You are no longer someone lost. You are someone in motion. And this movement, even if invisible to the eyes of the world, is a psychic shout that resonates in your future. And if this video inspired you in any way, share it. Someone close to you may be trapped in the same spell of confusion. Don't hide this truth. Spread it. Activate the bell, subscribe, and more importantly, keep watching the next video. It is not a supplement. It is a continuation of your journey because the path has begun now. I'll see you there.